All right, here we have another system, and again, we want to solve this using matrices. So the first thing we want to do here is to rewrite this as an augmented matrix. So we have -4 for the x, 3y, -3 on the other side, okay? And then we have 5x, 2y, -25. Now, this one is not going to be nearly as much fun as the last one, mainly because we don't have a coefficient of x that's 1, or one that's easy to get to being 1. Instead, we're going to have to take a deep breath and work with fractions. I know. So the first thing we want to do is to take row 1 and multiply this times -1/4, or divide by -4, however you want to write that. Do that, and you're going to replace row 1 with that. Oh, actually, that would have been a lot easier. You know, so here's 2 ways of doing this. So if I make that adjustment and I divide everything here by -4, we get +1, -3/4, +3/4, and of course the second row didn't change. So that's one way of doing it. Or what you can do is that you can combine row 2 with row 1 and then replace row 1 with that. Now, watch what happens. If I add these two guys together, -4 and 5 gives me 1. 3 and 2 gives me 5. Combine the coefficients, that's -28. Then I have 5, 2, and -25. So whichever way you do this is still going to work out to be the same. I know it looks different, but it will work out because it's math, right? One way is definitely going to be easier than the other, because working with fractions may not be a lot of fun, but you can still do it. So over here, I want to get rid of this guy right here. I want him to become a 0. So if I do -5 times row 1, add that to row 2, and then replace row 2 with that, we will have a 0. Okay, so fortunately, nothing changes in that first row. Yes, it's kind of ugly, but it is what it is. If I do -5 times 1 is -5 plus 5, we have 0. -5 times that plus 2. That may be kind of messy, so have a piece of scratch paper so you can work this stuff off to the side. So -5 times -3/4 plus 2. So that's 15/4 plus 8/4, which gives me 23/4. Okay, not pretty, but it is a number. And then I have something very similar for the next one. I need to do -5 times +3/4 and then subtract 25. So -15/4. 25 becomes 100/4. So that's -115/4. -115/4. All right, so then from here, we need to get this to be a 1. And the way we do that is that we multiply times the reciprocal. So we'd go 4/23 times row 2 and replace row 2 with that. Wow, that did not look right. All right. First row does not change. Multiplying times 4/23, so we get 0, we get 1, and then maybe over here to the side you say, okay, I've got to do -115/4 times 4/23. So the 4's reduce, and you would have -115/23, which is -5. In the grand scheme of things, that's really not too bad. So there's -5. So this is row echelon form. I want to go reduced row echelon form. So I want to kill this guy right here. I don't want the negative 3/4. So if I multiply the bottom row by 3/4 and add it to the top row, that's going to be my new row 1. So it's my bottom row that doesn't change this time. The 1's not going to change because you're working with a 0. And then I've got 3/4 times 1 plus negative 3/4. That's 0. That's what we were trying to have anyway, right? And then we have 3/4 times negative 5 plus 3/4. So negative 15/4 plus 3/4 is negative 12/4, which gives me negative 3. So there we have the reduced row echelon form with our ordered pair, our solution being negative 3, negative 5. All right, that was dealing with fractions. But let's see if things are a little bit different when I'm not doing the fractions. Did I find something that worked out more nicely the other way? Let's see. At the end, we better have the same answer, because if we don't, we've made a mistake somewhere. All right. So now if I multiply negative 5 times row 1 and add that to row 2 and replace that into R2. 1, 5, negative 28. Negative 5 times 1 is negative 5, plus 5 is 0. Negative 5 times 5 is negative 25, plus 2 is negative 23. Negative 5 times negative 28 is positive 140. You're going to add that to negative 25, so you get 115. And we want this guy to be a 1. So we will take row 2 divided by negative 23 and replace that in row 2. All right, so that's 1, 5, negative 28, 0, 1. We already know that 115 divided by 23 is 5, so this is negative 5. And then we can do negative 5 times row 1. Not row 1. Getting these guys backwards. Negative 5 times row 2. Add that to row 1, and then replace row 1 with that. All right, so we'll have, excuse me, we'll have 1, 0, 0, 1. Negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. Minus 28 gives me negative 3. And you'll see that's the same answer that I had. And amazingly, we didn't have to do fractions. But the thing is, we could do fractions, and it's going to be okay. Fractions are not the end of the world. They may make things more difficult, but again, there are properties, there are rules for working with fractions. So as long as you take your time, you're going to be okay.